Have you ever had that one neighbor who acts like property lines are just polite suggestions? The type who borrows your lawn mower and gives a backbone dry, or casually helps himself to the apples on your tree like it's a public orchard. I had one of those. Let's call her Karen. But Karen wasn't just mildly irritating. She operated on an entirely different level of entitlement, a level that, as I would soon discover, was several feet below ground. It all began on a cool autumn afternoon. I was outside soaking in the last warm streaks of sunshine before winter rolled in for good. I live in an old farmhouse, and one of its greatest treasures is a traditional root cellar built right into a small hill behind the house. It has a thick, old wooden door and stone steps leading down into cool darkness. Inside, I store the rewards of my garden: potatoes, carrots, onions, and shelves packed with home-canned goods. Jams, pickles, tomatoes, peaches. It's basically my personal grocery store, and I take a lot of pride in it. As I turned toward the house, something felt off. The cellar door was slightly open. That wasn't normal. I'm meticulous about that door. It's heavy, and I always shut it firmly and slide the thick iron bolt into place. Not just to keep animals out, but because an open cellar door is dangerous. Someone could fall. My first thought was that maybe I'd forgotten to secure it the night before when I grabbed potatoes for dinner. But no, I clearly remembered sliding that bolt across. Then I considered the wind, except there wasn't any. The air was still. That door wouldn't budge on its own. A strange unease crept over me. I stepped closer, quietly crossing the grass. As I approached, I heard something, faint rustling from below, glass lightly clinking. My pulse quickened. Maybe a raccoon? Some ambitious squirrel with refined taste in pickled beets? I edged toward the opening and peered down the stone stairs into the dim interior. The cellar always smells like cool soil and sweet preserves. But this time, I heard something else. A soft grunt. Effort. Human effort. That was no animal. My mind raced. Who would be inside my root cellar? Then I saw a movement. A figure bent over my shelves, stuffing jars into a large canvas bag. As my eyes adjusted, I recognized a floral blouse, the loud leggings. It was Karen from 2 houses down, the one who constantly complained about my elderly beagle's excessive barking, even though he mostly naps. The same Karen who once asked me, without blinking, how much I paid for my house. And now she was in my cellar, stealing my preserves. The audacity left me stunned. My first instinct was to shout down, "What do you think you're doing?" But then another idea formed, a far better one. A calm washed over me, cool and steady. I quietly stepped back from the opening and reached for the heavy oak door. It was thick and solid. Slowly, carefully, I began to swing it shut. The iron hinges moved with a deep, ancient groan, but didn't squeal. The beam of light illuminating the cellar narrowed inch by inch. Down below, Karen remained blissfully unaware, humming to herself while adding a jar of strawberry jam to her bag. The door continued closing until, with a soft final thud, it sealed the cellar in complete darkness. I paused, listening. Then I lifted the iron bolt and slid it firmly into place. The metallic clank rang through the quiet yard like punctuation at the end of the sentence. For 5 seconds, there was silence. Then came a hesitant, muffled, "Hello?" I didn't respond. "Hello?" Louder now. Nervous. What's happening? Who shut the door? Still silence from me. I heard fumbling, jars clinking, followed by a crash and a sharp curse. There went my spicy dill pickles. A true loss. Then came frantic pounding against the underside of the door. "Let me out. This isn't funny." Her voice rose to a shrill pitch as the banging intensified. It sounded like an enraged woodpecker underground. I leaned casually against the door, pulled out my phone, and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? "Hi," I said evenly. "I'd like to report a burglary in progress. Actually, more of a burglary that's been contained." A pause. "Contained, sir?" "Yes. The suspect is currently trapped in my root cellar." Another pause. "She's trapped in your cellar?" "That's correct." I replied as Karen emitted a dramatic shriek below. "She appears to have locked herself in. Very unfortunate." She's down there with a large bag of my stolen canned goods. You don't need to rush. She's not going anywhere. The dispatcher maintained admirable professionalism, though I thought I detected the slightest hint of amusement. She confirmed my address and said officers were on their way. The next 10 minutes were quite the performance. Karen cycled through denial, anger, panic, bargaining, and apology. There was screaming. There was sobbing. At one point, she offered to return the jars she hadn't shattered. I sat on my garden bench sipping water, listening to what can only be described as an underground emotional opera. Soon enough, sirens approached. 2 patrol cars rolled up my driveway. A male and female officer stepped out, both wearing expressions of mild confusion. "You called about a cellar burglar?" the male officer asked. "That's right," I said, pointing at the door. "She's in there." From below came renewed pounding. "Help! Police! I'm trapped!" The officers exchanged looks. "Ma'am," the female officer called out, "this is the police. Step back from the door. We're opening it." The pounding stopped, replaced by quiet sniffling. I lifted the heavy bolt and pulled the door open. There stood Karen at the bottom of the steps, blinking in the sunlight like she just surfaced from underground hibernation. Her hair was wild, her face streaked with dirt and tears. At her feet sat the canvas bag, soaking in a puddle of broken pickle brine, shards of glass glinting inside. Clutched to her chest was a single intact jar of peach preserves, held like treasure. When she saw the uniforms, she collapsed into sobs. The officers did their job. They cuffed her, read her rights, and led her to patrol car while she babbled about misunderstandings and something about a community cellar. The male officer remained behind to take my statement. He glanced at the shattered jars below and shook his head. "A community cellar," he muttered. 15 years on the job, and that's a first. He picked up the partially filled bag as evidence and added with a small grin, "Those preserves look impressive." "Old family recipe," I replied. After they left, I descended into the cellar to clean up the damage. The loss of the pickles hurt the most. They'd been an exceptional batch. But as I swept up the glass, I couldn't help smiling. Maybe some people would say I should have confronted her directly. But sometimes the best lesson is the one someone walks straight into themselves. Sometimes justice works best when it's cool, quiet, and underground. The neighborhood has been noticeably calmer ever since. And you can bet I check that iron bolt every single night. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've ever dealt with a neighbor who crossed a line, share it in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories just like this.